Hey there, Martin McGovern from Career Therapy here. I wanted to make this video really quick to chat about something I see so often in preparation for interviews during the job search. So I work with hundreds and hundreds of students from boot camps and schools and just different career changers from all over the world. And the common theme across all the interview prep that I see is that we tend to focus on only the literal question that's being asked. So one thing I'm always talking to people about is that there are actually two questions being asked every time you get asked a question in an interview. The first question is the literal question. And the second question is a bit more of a subconscious question or a hidden question, the thing they're trying to infer about you from the literal question. I'll give a couple examples here. The literal question you're asked at the beginning of almost every interview is, tell me about yourself. That is the literal question. And the literal answer to that literal question is literally too many literals. But the way that everyone answers that question is that they say, well, I was born here. I went to school here. I did these things. I went to these places. I traveled this, etc., etc. If I start telling you the answer to that question, hi, my name is Martin. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and I went to this school for middle school, and this school for junior high, and this school for whatever. My point being is if I go into that much detail, and I start talking to you about things that you don't care about, boom, you're clicking off this video, you are shutting me down, you are tuning out, you are not listening. In an interview situation, you are bored. And boy, are we starting this interview off on a wrong foot. We're starting off boring them instead of engaging them. So what are they really asking you when they say, tell me about yourself? Are they actually wanting you to tell them about yourself? The answer is no, they're not. So what are they wanting? What are they asking? Well, there's a lot of things that they could be asking depending on who you're talking to. There's many different interviews. There's screener interviews, interviews with the CEO, technical interviews. So each one might be slightly different, but let's just keep it basic. What are they typically asking you? In my mind, I like to think about it from their perspective. I say, what does this person's day look like? What was their day looking like before they got to this interview? What is on their mind? Chances are they are not a trained interviewer. They've maybe done it a bunch, or they're being pulled in last minute, or some other thing. So they get there, they don't really know who you are, they haven't done their research, they're busy, they've got other projects going on, and so they don't know how to start the conversation. So they say, tell me about yourself. They probably downloaded a list of questions from the internet the same way you did in prepping for this interview, and the first one on every list says, tell me about yourself. So they just go, okay, let's do that. That's what I'm always asked in interviews. Let's start with that question. So are they really saying, tell me about yourself literally? No, they're saying, I don't know how to start this conversation. Can you start it for me? I tend to find that to be a much easier question to answer, even though tell me about yourself isn't even really a question. Can you kick this off? Because I'm just getting my bearings. Can you set the tone for this interview? Instead of tell me about yourself and I tell you my whole history, I can hear that and say, okay, they don't know how to start this conversation, so it's up to me to set the tone and the topic. And typically the tone and the topic that we want to set is helpful, curious for the tone, helpful and curious, and a topic of how can I help? How does my background help you? So we only ever want to talk about things that help them, right? So anything that we're going to share about our past should be tied into their needs, this job, this role, etc. Now we can get into a whole thing in another video about how to actually answer that question. Usually it's about saying, here's the present, here's the past that got me here, and here's how it helps you. And it's a very straightforward kind of breakdown, but I'll save that. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a video about that, and I'll put that together. But they're not saying, tell me about your life story. They're saying, tell me about how you do your work as it is relevant to this role, so that we can start this interview off on the right foot. Help me. They're saying, help me. Help me kick this off. Now, what's another question that we often get asked? We often get asked, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Now, you can literally hear that and say, well, my strength is blank and my weakness is blank, right? And you can just say that. Here are 3 strengths, here are 3 weaknesses, period. Dead silence, awkwardness in the interview. Or we can actually hear what they're saying. What they're saying isn't, tell me literally what your strengths and weaknesses are. What they're saying is, if we were to put you on a team, what role should we put you in? Should we put you in the technical role? In the designer role? In the more public-facing customer interaction role? Or in the more behind-the-scenes, doing the stuff, on the back-end role? So if you go into that answer and you say, I procrastinate, well, so does everyone. That doesn't help me know where to put you on the team. If you say, I get really myopic when I'm working on a problem, a lot of people do. That doesn't really help me figure out where to put you on the team. What I want to know is, if you were to break your job into an 80-20 split, what do you want to spend 80% of your time doing, and what do you want to spend 20% of your time doing? Quite often, what I see when I talk to people about this is they'll say, I want to spend 80% of my time working with customers, doing research, interacting with people, and being social. So how do you convey that? That's your strength. My strength is working with people, getting people to open up, doing X, Y, or Z with customer research or focus groups or customer engagement or client engagement. I'm really great at client engagement. Let's just choose one strength. I'm really great at client engagement and making clients feel comfortable with our solutions. What's my weakness? Maybe it's data. If you're really good at social skills and the social aspect of your job, maybe you're not so good at the heavy details. So you can say, well, I'd prefer 20%, not 0%, but 20% of my job to be the details. So when they say, tell me your strengths and weaknesses, instead of blurting out all your personal insecurities on this poor person who doesn't want to hear them, say, so I'm really good at putting together presentations and sharing information with the client. As a matter of fact, this one time I was working at a client and we had to give this big presentation in order to win the account or something like that. So you give that example, one strength, done, fine, boom, bang. Then we move to the weaknesses. The weaknesses, we say, well, what do I want to spend the least amount of time doing in my job? Again, not 0. It's not, I'm terrible at this, never hand me a spreadsheet in my life, but maybe data is something that you're not so fond of. So you can say, one of my weaknesses is analyzing data. I'm really good at tracking things. I can put together basic spreadsheets, but when it comes to heavy data analysis, it's just not my strength. So when you put me on a team, or if I'm on a team, I'm much better in the more social role or in the more client-facing role, helping the clients, sharing the information, writing the emails, putting together the prompts and the presentations, and then collaborating with the data people in order to get the right information into that presentation. Because chances are the data people are the opposite of you. They want 80% of their job to be putting together all the information and only 20% of their job disseminating that information. So that's how you fit on the team. So again, when you hear what are your strengths and weaknesses, it's not an attack or a inquisition into your soul. It is just a basic ask of, on a team, where should I place you? So the hidden question, right? There's the literal question and the hidden question. Let's take one more. Tell me about a time you had a conflict with a coworker, right? They're not asking you to magically transport yourself back to this horrible experience you had with a coworker where now you're flustered and mad and blushing and the whole tone of the interview went from, hey, curious and helpful, to now I'm just pissed off at this person that I used to work with, which I've seen this happen. It doesn't go well. It's happened to me. You start talking about something, suddenly you're transported there, the emotion comes back, and the whole interview goes off the rails. They're not asking about the actual argument. They don't care about the actual argument. They don't care about whether or not that person was a B or a D or whatever word you want to throw at them. What they care about is, how do you handle conflict? What did you learn from that situation? And moving forward, how will you handle conflict in this job? So tell me about a conflict. You literally want to tell a story. Great. But tell one that you're emotionally detached from. Make it more work focused than, personal attack focused or insecurity focused or whatever the thing is, or pride focused. Make it just like, hey, I was working on this project. We had a disagreement about X, Y, or Z. Set it up with the STAR method. Here was the situation. Here was the task or the problem, right? Here's how we resolved it. And the key thing, here's what I learned. I learned that the best thing to do is to walk away and then come back fresh, or send an email and set up a meeting, or let the person cool off and then approach them later for more information. And that's what I try to do in my roles moving forward. And with that, I just want to revisit that point that every time you're asked a question in an interview, there are two questions that you're being asked: the literal question and the hidden question. If you have some examples of interview questions that you're curious of what would be the hidden question behind this question, put them in the comments and I'll respond with my thoughts on what they're really asking you. And with that, we will wrap up this video. Thanks so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and all the YouTube stuff if you'd like. And I will see you on the next video. Cheers.